Hey, it's Renmar. It's a happy Valentine's Day, February 14th. And just like a lot of people on this day, I spent a lot of quality time with the MLBB in-game patch notes. Because as I said in the previous video, there will be a new patch dropping today. So we're going to be talking about it. And it's interesting because patch 1.7.58, as described by the developers, the goal is for it to adjust the power level of the marksman, buff underperforming heroes, nerf a few overperformers, and fewer heroes were actually adjusted overall compared to past major patches. And they plan to keep this pace for a while because the developers are happy with where the meta is. However, there just needs to be some adjustments because some heroes were overperforming and some were underperforming. They wanted to bring that up. So I'm gonna say this as early as now. I feel like going into this season of professional tournaments, heading into the first half of this calendar year, we might be seeing a meta still very similar to M4 and MWI. However, with enough room in it for creativity and because of understanding and because of these adjustments, meta will evolve no matter how small it is. That I feel like we're going to be seeing maybe around 3 to 6 new heroes that weren't priority picks in the previous tournaments the past few months become priority picks in the upcoming months of tournaments because of the adjustments of this patch and the ones that might be coming in the future, and because we all know Arlot, the new hero, is in. So yeah, it's still going to be pretty much the same, but with some new faces in there that this meta will feel different enough because of those new faces, but still same. So it's like that a scene from that movie with Dave Franco, same, different, but still same. So let's talk about the patch itself, and let's start things off with Hanabi. They adjusted the Petal Barrage basic attack for Hanabi. When the first target of her basic attack is not a turret, it will continue to bounce even after bouncing to a turret, because as we've noticed, the path for Hanabi's basic attacks before will always be like hero. When it bounces to turret, that's it, even though there's other heroes there that maybe you'd want to hit with that Petal Barrage, so now you don't have to worry about that. Ninjutsu Equinox, her first skill, shields from other sources also grant control immunity to her. So any hero that can give a shield, such as Diggy's Time Journey, Lolita's Numenon Energy Core, the Battle Spell Aegis, all of those can grant control immunity to Hanabi, because as we know with Ninjutsu Equinox, when she has like a shield on her, she's immune to control effects. And it says right here, the secret Ninjutsu of the Scarlet Shadow makes Hanabi immune to control effects when she has a shield from any source. So if you're going to be making a lineup that is very specific for a Hanabi player, paired up with a hero such as Lolita, Matilda, Aegis, maybe even Estes with an Aegis would be great, so that you can give more control immunity to your Hanabi. For pro play, maybe, but a lot of the pros really just don't like Hanabi because of her lack of a dash ability, and she's very one-dimensional. She's very slow front to back. When you draft for Hanabi, you're gonna need to draft for Hanabi well, considering how there's so many dive heroes who can just easily get to her. She's gonna need a lot of shields so she can get a lot of control immunity to avoid that. And with the Soul Scroll and Higanbana abilities, as you can see there, well, the speed of the projectile increased, so that means it just moves faster now. So if you're used to Hanabi's second skill and her ultimate moving at a slower pace, don't be surprised if it starts feeling faster, because that was just adjusted. So with Hanabi done, let's move on over to Nathan. Now I find the case of Nathan very interesting, because with Nathan, they strengthened his passive. So the theory of everything passive, the base damage, lifesteal ratio, and spell vamp ratio were all increased. It's actually a considerable increase. It was a 30% increase for the lifesteal and a 20% increase for the spell vamp. Base damage was also increased. So the theory of everything, the base damage I'm talking about here is the basic attack coming back, because as we all know, Nathan's basic attack is it's like a boomerang. It's like hits you twice. And then they also reduced the cooldown of his ultimate by 2 seconds. I know Nathan is a very niche pick. Very specific cases where he's drafted. We rarely see him in pro play because other marksmen really just are better options. And it's interesting because I know with the last adjustment to Nathan before this, they wanted to make him more of a very fast basic attack magic damage type of dealer. That's why we're seeing a lot of very popular builds with things like Feather of Heaven, Genius Wand, or even Glowing Wand, and then just mix things around. He's very flexible in terms of what you can build with him, but magic's been increasing. And then if you build him physical, it's still mainly magic damage, that hits him. It's just the physical attack adjusts the overall magic damage. But because of an item existing, such as, the Brute Force Breastplate being picked up more with the cooldown reduction that it has, and then most especially the magic armor, the name of which is escaping me right now. Radiant armor, there you go. Because of radiant armor existing, that's why Nathan's stock somewhat plummeted in terms of him getting picked. Because of radiant armor being an item that, reduces the magic damage of your opponent, similar to what Antikyras does for physical. Nathan has dipped out of favor in the pro scene. So I will be surprised if they pick Nathan or if Nathan gets picked, but gonna be very happy because it's gonna be a new thing to learn and a new build to explore and a new way to play Nathan that the pros might show us, or maybe they would have picked up from the gods of ranked games that we know we have out there. Now on to Carrie, the insta-ban. Her passive and ultimate damage were decreased since she was triggering her light wheels too frequently because of a golden staff being a very popular item for Carrie, and the adjustments to golden staff and corrosion scythe with the previous patch that we had that really focused on the marksman. Carrie just became this, I would say, overpowered pick, a pick that was very difficult to defeat when she got the ball rolling and there's a good draft around her. So now the changes to her, from 8% of the target's max HP flat, the damage of the light wheel mark, once you hit all of it, is now 6 to 8% of target's max HP, meaning it scales now. The basic attack damage of the speedy light wheel was also decreased. The basic attack's attack effect was decreased. So really, across the board, Carrie's damage was just decreased by in the early game, as much as like 15% for her speedy light wheel and her basic attack's attack effect. However, as the game scales goes longer, that's when you're gonna start feeling like the older Carrie. So now they've pretty much just delayed her ability in the early to mid game to be that monster that we've been fearing a lot in our games. Carrie, though, is still going to be a great pick. It's just this time, it's just gonna be slightly delayed or slower in terms of like building her up and really getting her to the top form that we know her to have. But other than that, Carrie's gonna be fine. Before we continue our discussion on the specific hero adjustments, we're gonna have to talk about these adjustments to movement skill interruption and the knockback effect adjustment. Now, for movement skill interruption, skills that knock targets airborne or cause suppression will now interrupt quick movement skills and cause the target to stop immediately. The first thing that comes to my mind here is a hero such as Fanny. We all know Fanny, even as long as she gets her cable locked in, she's still gonna continue flying pretty much. But now the movement skill interruption adjustment should mean that skills that knock targets airborne or cause suppression will now interrupt quick movement skills, meaning it should stop Fanny. At the same time, knockback skills, it's like they were strengthened as well, because now they count as control skills, and knockbacks will now apply a very small micro stun. Kind of redundant there, but now it'll apply a micro stun. And I feel like this is the adjustment that might have the biggest influence. Not specifically the heroes, but this adjustment. Because if you look at the list of heroes here, that's a lot of heroes that are affected by this knockback effect adjustment. All of the skills of Badang, the skill 1 of Martius, Leomord's ultimate. You can see that there. So many heroes affected by this change. Knockbacks will now apply a micro stun. So take that into consideration when you are using hero with knockbacks. That micro stun will be important. I think because of this, I'm going to be playing a lot of more Valir and Lo Yi as well, and maybe start playing Faramis a little bit more, but we'll see. This is the adjustment that you should be watching out for, and if you play any of these heroes on this list, come back to this video, tell me in the comment section how you felt like this change affected your playstyle. Was it for the better, or does it feel just pretty much similar? Now let's go on over to Julian. The developers, it was very straightforward with what they aimed for Julian. They wanted to increase his burst damage so that he's more appealing, so that more people would play him, because Julian, as we all know, has dipped so hard out of favor from everyone, from pro players to the RG gods there. I still see him, but not as much as we used to, and we know before Julian was such an instant ban, and he was almost always picked in our games in the pro scene as well. But now Julian, the adjustments to him, they just increased the magic power scaling of his enhanced basic attack, so from 100% to 120%. His enhanced scythe damage was increased as well as his enhanced sword. So again, emphasis on the enhanced, meaning that after you cast the second skills, when Julian has that whole enhance a portion, again, after casting 2 different skills, Julian enhances his third skill. That's what buffed, not the base skill of sword and scythe, but the enhanced version of it. So don't forget about that important detail about Julian. Now on to Edith. This is the one I am really looking forward to seeing if she will be played more, not just in RG, but in the pro games as well. They increased her laning ability, bonus from Wrath, and slightly increased damage to high HP targets. So her Overload passive, the Chain Lightning damage now scales to 4% of target's max HP plus 30% magic power when, of course, hitting enemy heroes or your target. Damage to minions also increased from 180% to 300%. So that's what they mean by increased laning ability. I tried it out earlier. She clears minion waves really fast. You can feel the difference. I played a couple of games of Edith before this patch and then got to play it. Immediately you can feel just how quickly she can clear minion waves. Her Primal Wrath ultimate, the transformation shield that you get now scales with 350 to 650 shield being dependent on level, plus 5% to 20% max HP of Edith, and the percentage portion increases with Wrath. And as we all know, her Wrath ability, the more damage she receives, she accumulates her Wrath that way, and then that's how her ultimate becomes stronger the more damage you receive before you pop it. And it used to scale with max HP plus 80% magic power. Now it scales 20% max HP of Edith. So they just really adjusted how she scales, how she plays, and I'm excited to be playing more of Edith in game because I really like the adjustments on her. Now on to Paquito. His heavy left punch, skill 1, enhanced shield when used with champ stance. It's now 20% stronger, and his second skill, jab, enhanced damage when used with champ stance, has been buffed up as well, roughly by around 15% in terms of the percentage scaling, and then by close to 110 points at maximum damage with the maximum level. So yeah, Paquito, I understand why they wanted to make these changes. Paquito has fallen in favor recently as well. However, he is still, in my opinion, a very good pick. But now I see Paquito evolving as, yeah, he hurts and then he gets a lot of life steal, so that might mean we're still gonna be seeing him with the typical fighter emblem setup. But I've seen Paquitos in ranked games and some player streams as well, where they played him in the XP lane with an assassin emblem, and oh my goodness, his damage is insane. And the way that he's just chaining things together, and how much damage he can avoid because of the enhanced shield. Again, just like Julian, it's the enhanced shield with chap stance that we're talking about here. So it's the skill usage after you have all the bars of Paquito maxed out there, although there was red bars under his name. He hurts, and I feel like Paquito is going to be a pick worthy to be revisited by the pros and by you as well in your ranked game. So watch out for aggressive Paquitos, or just really highly skilled Paquitos. He might be making a comeback. Now on to everyone's little favorite one-eyed guy, but this is the Yoda skin, so I guess not one-eyed. And no, this isn't a flex. We're talking about Cyclops here. The mana cost reduction for his skill 2 was decreased. So I did notice that with a lot of Cyclops players, how fastly they ran out of mana, and that was apparently because of the skill 2. I don't play Cyclops that often anymore, and I've forgotten how it feels like to use him. So the mana cost reduction is going to be good because they wanted to focus on building more CD or cooldown reduction for him and magic power. The ultimate damage was buffed by 50 points at base damage and 80 points at max level damage. So just a slight quality of life improvement for Cyclops and Cyclops mains. So tell me what you think about that, Cyclops players. Is this enough for him to potentially show up in MPL games, or is he just going to be one of those picks that when it's us normal people playing, then he's still a very worthy pick to pick up? Now, another former meta staple that has since fallen out of favor in recent months, Esmeralda. The goal for the adjustments on Esmeralda were simple: higher damage, more skill use. The Stardust Dance second skill, magic damage, was increased by roughly 60 points at base, 110 points at max, and it even scales 30% more with magic power. And then at the same time, her skill 1, Frost Moon Shield, the CD reduction upon hitting a hero with it, was increased from just 1.3 seconds to 1.5 seconds. So Esmeralda, I'm gonna have to experiment with her more because of the adjustments as well onto Glue and LapuLapu. I tried a game out of Esmeralda earlier and I got a win, but that was just only one game, so I need to try out more if Esmeralda is going to be making a comeback, because she isn't as high sustain as before. She wasn't as a nightmare to face off as before, but we'll see in the coming days what we think about Esmeralda. But for those who have gotten a considerable amount of time playing Esmeralda with patch 1.7.58, comment down below what you think about the changes to her. Is she back to being on top form again, or are there really just a lot of better XP laner picks out there that you'd rather pick over Esmeralda? Now on to Glue, everyone's most favorite band, priority picked hero right now. One of my favorites to play as well. Shout out to Sona, who plays a very mean Glue. The goal for him was to reduce the damage and HP regen from early to mid game. So the damage of the Slam was reduced, and the HP regen from Goo was reduced from 3% all throughout the game to 1.5% in the early to mid game, and then as you max out the ability, it goes up to 3%. So it's a very minimal change in my opinion, and it should lessen somewhat his ability to be of a lane bully, but it's still going to be there. It just means that it wouldn't be as Glue favored as before. It just means that it's gonna be a bit harder now for Glue players to duel in the early to mid game, in the laning phase, in the first 10 minutes or so of the game. But then once things are maxed out, it's gonna feel like old Glue again. So it's a welcome adjustment. It's a good balance, but I don't think it means that glue is gonna be disappearing from out of favor. It just means a lot of the players will just adjust their playstyle in the early to mid game. Oh, and now with the current love of my life in terms of favorite heroes in the game, Eve, spamming her a lot. She's my go-to hero in ranked games. The goal for her was just to increase the cooldown of Starfield, that's real world manipulation or ultimate, and reduce the initial slow of the Void Crystal. So for the ultimate cooldown from 50 seconds to 40 seconds, it's now 58 seconds to 50 seconds. So by max game, it's like a 10% increase. They just increased really the cooldown of that. It just means you're just gonna have to adjust gameplay a little bit in terms of your internal timings, but it wouldn't be that difficult to do. And the initial slow effect starts at 25%. We're talking about the Void Crystal here, while still increasing to end at the total 75%. So instead of being blasted right away with a big major slow, the more that you get hit by it, the more the slow will stack, and then eventually you feel it more. Honestly, I played already like around 5 games of Eve earlier. After the batch, still good. She's still fine. I really felt though that I didn't have as quick as an access to my ultimate as I did before, and then the slow you can feel it as well. But honestly, it's fine. Eve is still a monster when you know how to play her really well. Great poke damage. I could make an entire video about Eve, but that's not gonna be the point here. Eve, even though she was nerfed, you're gonna be tempted to think, oh, Eve's gonna be weaker when you see that down arrow next to her name. No, she's still fine in my books. Now on to LapuLapu, and this is a welcome adjustment. I can feel it as well as someone who played LapuLapu a lot and went up against some really mean LapuLapus and played with some really mean LapuLapus as well. They just gave him a slight damage nerf. The base damage of his skill 1 Justice Blades was reduced from 175 to 300 to 140 to 265. So it's a considerable damage boost, a reduction, and then at the same time, his Raging Slash with his heavy sword stance activated, the damage of the first 2 slashes were reduced from 380 to 580 to 345 to 545. So it's just a slight adjustment. It should just mean that LapuLapu wouldn't be an absolute menace even without his first item up, and it should reduce the damage that he should be doing even when he already has built his first item, usually a Bloodlust Axe, by the way. But honestly, LapuLapu, well, he's still fine, and he has really quick access to his ultimate, great wave clear, good amount of mobility, although he is flicker dependent. But the damage reduction, maybe to some players who are so used to being very dominant as LapuLapu, are gonna feel that difference. But you're just gonna have to adjust your playstyle a bit. But because of this adjustment to LapuLapu, I still really think that Edith might be played more. And the pick, a very specific pick that we've been seeing in the past few months, is a Terizla. I think we might be seeing more Terizla picks get picked up because of how fast he can still clear waves and a relatively good amount of damage and control he can dish out as well. So with this slight damage nerf to LapuLapu, should just mean it's going to be a little bit more even of the XP lane when you're up against him, and that more XP lane options are going to show up. There might be more players who will pick up Toms in the XP lane. I mean, Yuzong's still going to be there. Edith, as I mentioned. And then Terizla as well. So let's watch out for those. Hayabusa now, and it was a very basic adjustment. It was just a slight damage nerf. The base damage of his Phantom Shuriken being reduced from 170 to 270, now to 150 to 250. So they just pretty much reduced it by 20 points. Hayabusa is still gonna be a Hayabusa, not a major change. Now Fanny, and this is the hero that I'm gonna be really looking at in terms of how is she gonna be picked more often, and with the adjustments to airborne, the movement skill interruption that we were talking about earlier, adjustment. Yeah, Fanny might not. Fanny mains are definitely gonna feel the change when they play the game. And I don't think it's just gonna be an issue of just changing your approach as a Fanny. It's gonna be pretty major change of an approach to Fanny in terms of how you play her, because you're just going to be a lot more cautious about going in and getting those targets, trying to burst down a target real quickly because of the movement skill interruption change. However, the change that was given to her was that her HP growth was slightly increased to increase her durability. And by HP growth, we talk about here how much her HP grows as the games go on and as she earns levels in game. So we have to keep an eye out for Fanny. But now, honestly, as someone who's more of a mage hero main, I'm not gonna be as worried of Fannies anymore, unless they're like a really monstrous player. Then yeah, I'm still gonna be worried. But let me know in the comment section if you are just seeing this video after a few games as Fanny or against Fanny, how it feels with the adjustment on the movement skill interruption. Okay, before we talk about the boy on your screen right now, Yin, let's just quickly talk about another battlefield adjustment. Conceal movement speed was slightly nerfed. So the max movement speed you got before with a conceal was 30% to 75%. Now it's 24% to 60%. I think you're still gonna feel that, but honestly, conceal is conceal. However, it might just mean that it's not gonna be as easy to completely catch your opponents off guard with the conceal play as we're used to, because now with the movement speed reduction, it means there's a slightly bigger window that you're gonna be seeing your opponents come in. So that was the adjustment to conceal, and something you have to watch out for as well. And now with Yin, the goal for Yin was to give him more opportunities as an XP laner instead of only just as jungler. I know we see XP laner Yins in our ranked games. However, the popular choice for him is to play him in the jungle as an assassin type of deal. But now, to make him get played more as an XP laner, the developers added an 8% spell vamp when there are no allied heroes within 4 units effect. Because as we all know, his passive, Leave It To Me, if there are no allied heroes within 4 units of Yin, his damage is increased to 120%. Now they also included an 8% spell vamp when there are no allied heroes within 4 units. I will admit, I do not play a lot of Yin, so I don't know if this will really make Yin get played more in the XP lane. But his kit is just so weird to me, because he's the one that turns team fights from 5v5s not into a 5v4 but into 4v4s. And as a jungler, I mean, while you're in there, it's not like you have access to the retribution. So him as a jungler, to me, has always struck me off as kind of strange in terms of when are you going to be using your ultimate, when is it going to be effective. XP laner Yin actually already made a lot of sense to me initially. I know Womi, co-caster mine, played a lot of XP lane Yin, and most of the Yins that I've gone up against that have been incredibly difficult to go up against were XP laner Yins. So I think this just will strengthen the XP laner Yin movement even more now with that 8% spell vamp also there. Should be good, but I don't know, Yin has always been in a very weird spot for me in terms of like how viable he is for picking. And I mean, him barely getting picked or not getting picked at all in the professional scene, and me not even seeing as much Yins as before also. But weirdly enough, a lot more people are banning him. I don't know why. Yeah, let's see. Maybe I'm gonna challenge myself to play more games of Yin. But for Yin mains out there, or for people who don't like to go up against Yin, let me know what you think about this change. And that is it for our discussion on this patch. What do you think about all these adjustments? Put it down in the comment section below, and don't forget to like and share the video. Drop your comments, subscribe. Thank you all for the support. It means a lot to me. So thank you so much. We're gonna be doing more of this when patches drop. But since this was a major patch, this was gonna be a longer video. Thank you so much. Once again, don't forget to watch the upcoming days of the first week and up until the end of MDL Philippines and MPL Philippines. Will be starting all this week. MDL Philippines starts tomorrow. MPL Philippines starts this Friday. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one.